Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. Now, wasn't that spooky? Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye. And I'm here today to talk to you about Child's Play 3. This movie came out in 1991. It was made around the same time, or written around the same time as Child's Play 2, which is why Child's Play 2 has a short runtime. This was the start of somewhat of a downward spiral of the Chucky franchise. It's one that really didn't hit the mark with fans, and in fact is Dan Mancini's least favorite movie. While it's not a complete disaster of a movie, it just doesn't feel, I don't know, it doesn't have that same feel as the first two movies. It feels more like a TV movie than that of an actual theatrical movie. I remember when I kept saying Child Play 2, how 80s it is. The reason why I said that is because, it came out in 1990. We was coming off the heels of the 80s, so it still had that 80s vibe to it. And this movie has very much somewhat of an early 90s vibe to it. Part of the problem is they decided he ran out of ideas. Dan did, right? And so when he ran out of ideas, he decided, all right, I'm gonna age up Andy. Now Andy is a 16-year-old boy. In the first movie, he was only 6. And well, even though the new actor, played by that of Justin Wallen, he looks a lot like, Alex Vincent and stuff. He looks just like him, just aged up. Even though he looks like him, and he has more of a different personality and stuff, it just doesn't feel right. You know what I'm saying? Oh, by the way, this dude used to play Jimmy Olsen in the Terry Hatcher and Dean Cain Superman show. And so, he just doesn't really feel like Andy. I mean, he still is self-aware and stuff like that. But, I don't know. It's just weird knowing that he's aged up. One of the problem is, the thing that made the first two so fascinating was, like I said before, was brilliant in writing, was that Andy was a little boy and nobody believed him that a doll is alive and killing people. People always assumed either it was him or it was somebody else. One thing I didn't even notice is that, in the first two movies, have you noticed that Andy is very isolated? He has no friends. And so he's very much isolated in his own little world, especially in the first movie. In the second movie, he goes to school, but he doesn't really interact with nobody. And then he has Kyle in the second movie, but she's older and off in her own little world. So he's very much isolated. Where in this one, they sent him to military school. And so he's around his peers, but they don't really, get along with him. Except for, 3 people. No, 4 people. Well, yeah, 3 people, but 4 really. But, they don't really interact with him that much. And they don't really help out. And so it's odd because where in the first movie, adults didn't want to believe him, but now his own peers don't want to believe him. Also, why is he in military school? He's not a bad kid in this movie. When you assume you get sent to military school, it's for one or two reasons. Either one of your family members is in the military or you're a bad kid. And he just said he's been bounced around, foster care, so makes it assume with the shaggy hair that he might be a bad kid. But throughout the entirety of the movie, he's not. He also doesn't defend himself around the other kids, which is odd because in the second movie, when he got picked on, he defended himself. And he was a lot tougher in the second movie. Whereas now, he just seems like a scared teenage boy. And so it doesn't feel like Andy and stuff. And you know what's crazy? After watching this, I realized something. I did watch this movie years ago. I remember there was one Child's Play movie that I did watch on television. And it was this one because I remember the military school, I remember the little black kid Tyler, and I remember the girl Kristen and stuff. And so yeah, and so like it's funny because I did watch this movie and didn't know. And what's so crazy, this movie still has Star Trek references to it. There are two actors who have been in Star Trek: the dude who plays Garrett in Deep Space Nine, and the one Colonel dude who's like an admiral in Voyager. It's funny how it has that Star Trek connection. And so, anyways, um, this movie also has the absence of Cal. It's like, where is she? She was established in the second movie, and she's a fan favorite. And they introduce a character that is beloved by fans only to write her out completely in this movie. And that's just a weird and bizarre like thing to do. She's not referenced whatsoever, not shown whatsoever, and instead she's replaced with all these new like characters. All the new characters are just one dimensional, and not only that, but like they're cliche. You have the nerdy like kid with glasses who gets picked on. You have the rebel female. You have the rebel's female best friend. You have the bully. You have the bully friends. And then you have the little kid who's just there, which is in the form of Tyler. Tyler is technically the new Andy. And so it's weird having two types of Andys in the same series, or at least in the movie. Like in the television show, it's not like that. You have the new Andy character in Jake, but Andy is off like doing his own thing, destroying Chucky dolls. They're not really the same type of character because Andy is more evolved in the television series. Whereas here, Tyler is literally Andy from the first movie. He finds the Chucky doll, he befriends it, he doesn't believe it's bad and stuff like that. And the real Andy is trying to get him away from the doll. And it's just like, why do that if you're gonna have the original Andy in the movie? It probably would have been a whole lot better if we didn't know what happened to Andy and say like, we know he's in the foster care, and then they introduce the Tyler character and revolve it around him. Kind of doing a soft reboot, if you will, but they didn't do that. And so this movie doesn't really have all like, the makings of what made the first two movies really all that interesting. It has bland characters that are cliche. And also Kristen is like the love interest of Andy, but you never see that throughout the movie. Yeah, she befriends him and sticks up for him, but there's never no chemistry between the two. So when those two kiss towards the end of the movie, it just didn't feel genuine. And so, of course, Chucky, he no longer wants to be put in Andy's body because, like, um, that time has now passed. However, he realizes something. He's in a brand new body, which means he can transfer his soul into the first person he reveals himself to, which doesn't make no sense because, okay, the rules of this voodoo curse keeps changing within every movie. I thought that in the first movie, he could only transfer his soul in the first person he reveals himself to. Well, in this movie, he reveals himself to the owner of the Good Guy doll factory company. See, once again, they shown how Chucky is made. After he got mutilated, they shut down the factory for 8 years. But ironically, they didn't clean nothing up in the factory. So every gross, disgusting thing that was in there last time when Chucky died is still there. So when they took his body to burn and incinerate, his blood dripped in the new batter of like the plastic rubbery stuff that like, the dolls are made out of. And that's how Chucky now got resurrected. So technically Chucky is immortal. All you need is his blood mixed in with something. But can his blood take over something else? And so then he reveals himself to the owner and kills him. I'm assuming that's really why he couldn't go inside Andy's body in the second movie, because he revealed himself to an employee at the beginning of the second movie. And so, like, I don't understand. Like, so now he has a new body and he can transfer his soul, and he tries to do it in Tyler, but of course he keeps getting interrupted. And so, like, But if he's so obsessed with Andy, why didn't he just try to go inside Andy's body? I mean, he once again shipped himself to where Andy is at. And so, like, the movie just doesn't feel like a horror movie. It feels more like a teen, not even so much a drama movie. It just feels like a teen, slightly horror-ish type movie. Kind of like a Goosebumps, but more watered down and everything. And so, Chucky causes like chaos throughout, like, the military camp, killing people here and there. And so, like, but what's so weird is that when the teenagers can clearly see Chucky is a living doll, they still blame Andy. How in the world does that happen? I don't get that. So anyway, they go to like a carnival type thing. They duke it out with Chucky. He dies once again, and he gets chopped up in little pieces. But Kristen, she gets shot, and so like she gets taken to the hospital. But then once again, it ends in a very flat, bizarre kind of way. Andy is put away in handcuffs and put in a squad car, and is driven off because they think he is responsible for all the murders. But all it would do would take a couple of seconds to talk to the military people, be like, yeah, there's a living doll in there thing that literally ran around and kept trying to kill Tyler and stuff. And once they talk to Kristen and everything, they should realize that, hey, there's a living doll and Andy is set in the clear. But, that's just weird. And so he's driven off and it just ends. Sorry about that. My camera died on me. And so, like, there's no real resolution to everything that's been, like, building up. It doesn't feel like it's truly been resolved because it leaves you, like, on a cliffhanger, what's going on with Andy afterwards, And I don't know. It's just this movie slightly missed the mark. Now, the idea of Chucky being in a military school and killing a bunch of people would be interesting, but of course, you can't show him killing a bunch of young people. So, putting him in the military school was just strange and like very bizarre because the only people he could kill were like the adults and everything. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. I know it's not Halloween. Alright, that's long past. But when it came to my Halloween videos, I ran out of time and I couldn't upload everything I wanted to. So that's why I'm uploading them past Halloween. But if you stop and look at it like this, at some point in time, it's gonna be Halloween time again, October. So somebody eventually will stumble upon my videos and watch it around Halloween time. So yeah.